Hi, my name's Kara-Leah and this is my video blog. If you watched last week's blog, I was talking about how the process of yoga starts to bring up stuff. And because we're aware, we start to realize that we can no longer hide away from this stuff. And I talked about how my week last week was one of those weeks. I had unexplained feelings of grief coming up and unexplained feelings of depression. So when I spoke last week, I was just in that process of realizing that I didn't have to do anything with this grief or this depression except to just actually sit with it, to just be with it. And so after about 3 or 4 days of the mind just churning, trying to figure it out and understand it, I'd come to that point. It was like, oh, okay, I'm just with it, and that's okay. And I promised you that I might come back with some treasure, and indeed I have. So this is the interesting thing. When you face your stuff and you actually get in there and you just sit with it and you accept it and you see it for what it is, there is invariably some kind of opening. And in the opening, an insight arises. And this insight is like new information or new wisdom. And it often heralds a new direction in our lives. And that's what's happened for me. So I'm really excited this week. I feel great. So what happened was I realized just after teaching a yoga class actually that, you know what if I wasn't a yoga teacher? What if I didn't have to earn a living teaching yoga? And that was an immensely liberating thought. See, I'm a solo mum. I've got a 2.5-year-old. And in the last year and a half, I've been working really hard to become financially independent by teaching yoga and running a yoga website and writing. So I've set up a company and I've been putting everything I earn into that company and paying the expenses, etc., out of it. And to date, the most I've paid myself in a salary is $30 a week, which obviously you can't live on, right? So I'm living on the generosity of the New Zealand people at the moment, the taxpayers, of whom I was one until very recently. So I've been very, very grateful for that. It's given me the opportunity to be an amazing mum to my child, and also to attempt to set up this business. But what I've realized is I'm really, really good at what I do. I'm a fantastic communicator. I'm a really good teacher. I'm awesome at media. I can do interviews. I can write magazine stuff. I can do all this communication stuff. You know, I write speeches. I used to write speeches for ministers of parliament. I mean, I know my stuff. What I'm not so good at is selling that stuff in order to make money. I mean, I could probably do it if I really put my mind to it, but I don't want to put my energy into that. I just want to do what I'm great at, which is teaching and communicating. So coming to this realization was sort of an understanding that, you know what, maybe trying to get my own business off the ground right now is not the best thing to do for me. What would happen if I went back into the marketplace and actually offered my skills and talents to the highest bidder? And that was like a revelation. It was like, oh my God, yes, I will go and get a job. So that was the treasure that I came back from last week. I realized that this is a new direction for me, that I'm really, really excited at taking all of my skills and talents and the things that I've learned and going to get a job, which is cool. So in terms of the experience that happened last week, this is something amazing that yoga has given me. Once upon a time when I started having these feelings of sadness or depression or stuckness or blah, or I would identify with them for a start. So I would believe I was depressed, I was blah, I was sad. Now, because of yoga, I witness these things and I can separate myself out and go, I'm experiencing depression, I'm experiencing sadness, I'm experiencing blah. And that ability to separate myself out from the experience, to no longer identify with it, creates a gap where I'm able to see it for what it is. And generally it's feedback. It's just feedback from the universe so that I can see what's going on in my life and see what I need to do next. So last week was feedback that, you know what, maybe this road that you're traveling down is not the one that you need to be traveling down right now. I mean, come on, I've just gone and done this workshop. By all accounts, it had been a great success. It was almost full. Everyone had a great time. I had a great time. It worked super, super well. And yet it did not make me excited, did not make me joyful in the terms of feeling like, yeah, this is what I want to keep doing. Partly because I realized the economics of it don't stack up. The amount of work that's required to put on a workshop and the amount that's received at the other end, I would have to teach God knows how many workshops a week in order to actually survive. It didn't stack up. So hence the sadness and the depression. A little bit of a tangent there, but this is the interesting thing about yoga, is that you can see how much I've shifted since last week, right? Like where I was last week is completely different to where I am right now. And that's yoga in action, that ability to start to master life. When you can notice what you're experiencing and receive it as feedback so that you can make a course correction. Because that's all it is. And then it's nothing personal, then you're not identifying with it, then it doesn't become this big drama or this big issue. We're like, oh my God. It's just like, that's interesting. What's going on? Be with it. Insight, course correction, new direction. Sweet, on my way. It's pretty much what happens, right? So I think that's maybe the takeaway for this week, is that next time you're experiencing something that you would term an uncomfortable feeling or something that's not so nice, instead of identifying with it, or instead of pushing it away, or instead of avoiding it or covering it up, look at that uncomfortable feeling and just look at it and just be with it and ask yourself, what's the treasure hidden inside this? What's the message that this is giving me? Where's the feedback coming here? And see, who knows what might arise. Awesome.